It's below zero and it's snowing. I've been so busy for the last few months. I've been uploading like almost nothing to YouTube, and it's just been crazy busy. I've been splitting and stacking firewood, putting the garden to bed. I mean, I live in the middle of nowhere. Our driveway is 1 kilometer long in a remote area of the Canadian wilderness. So it's finally time to get more synth time.
Hey, welcome back to the booth. I want to talk about two different pieces of gear, the Elektron Digitakt II and the Synthstrom Deluge or Deluge. A lot of people know a lot about this box. A lot of people don't know much about this box. They are both very powerful, really interesting, really innovative, and they have a lot more in common than you might think. Okay, right off the bat, I have to say I'm relatively new to the Elektron line. The whole workflow is a new thing for me, so I'm certainly not an expert on it. I have a very limited knowledge. There's a lot of people out here that will have a lot more information and a lot deeper understanding of both these pieces of gear, actually. So there's my little caveat. The Digitakt Mark II, an amazing device and obviously very popular. And everybody knows a lot about them because there are so many great videos and so many people using them. It's like an all-in-one groove box. You can do so much stuff with it. Today, I want to talk about the differences and similarities between this and the Deluge. A lot of people call this the Synthstrom Deluge or the Deluge. I call it the Deluge. And the only reason I do that is because Deluge is a big, wet, rainy mess. And this is a synthesizer. And I just decide I'm going to make those different pronunciations. So you have to forgive that. The Deluge is a little bit bigger. And it's got this crazy series of pads. You use those for triggering notes, but you use them for a lot of other things as well. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. So that's something I want to talk about in this video. You can see I've changed out my knobs here for these encoders. And I did that because in the space that I create music, there is very little light. And I found the black knobs very hard to see where they are and whatever. Otherwise, straight out of the box, Digitakt II. Both of these boxes are amazing at sequencing. Both of them have a certain amount of effects in them, like delay, chorus, reverb, some bit crusher effects, distortion, that sort of thing. Both of them have a pretty powerful modulation matrix. They also do sampling, time stretching. Both of them support quite a few different scales, musical scales. Both of them have programmable mutes and momentary mutes. Both of them have a very involved song mode, like a arranger mode for tying a bunch of things together into a longer form composition. And with both of them, there's the ability to take a sample and slice it up into a grid. Now, one of the main differences is this Deluge has a synthesizer in it. This doesn't. This has samples in it, so it's mainly a beatbox, but it can be used for musical samples, and you can play those musical samples into different notes and keys and stuff like this. So it's kind of like having a synthesizer, and you can kind of synthesize stuff with this. But the Deluge does subtractive synthesis, it does wavetables, it does FM. Now, because they're both basically beatboxes, they have things like the ability to program and play in different time signatures. They have metronomes built in. When you program a sequence, they both have the ability to do things like probability, so that, for instance, you have a certain sound. It's not going to play every time that loop goes around. It'll play 10% of the time or 30% of the time or whatever. You can program all of that. They both have quantizing, your ability to lock things into a time slot or maybe mix up the timing and loosen it up, swing factor, that sort of thing. They also both have the ability to export stems. So like you write something that has a whole bunch of different parts to it, and you can actually export all of those individual tracks separately so you can mix them in a DAW or modify them later. Really powerful, really great. They also both have a master compressor. They also both have an audio input. So you can plug in another synthesizer, another piece of audio gear, whatever you want, and you can sample from that directly, or you can mix it in and make it part of whatever you're doing. You can actually add the internal effects to the audio inputs. They both have in-depth MIDI, so you can use this to drive other synthesizers, other drum machines, other pieces of audio gear, or you can use other musical gear, sequencing, other types of drum machine stuff to control this. You can connect it to your DAW with either USB or MIDI. So very capable for doing recording. They both are kind of sold as a standalone in the box. You can do all sorts of stuff here. but there's quite a few differences as well. And this is like super popular. Everyone knows a lot about them. But I'm going to focus a little bit on the Deluge now and tell you about the stuff that it does that this does not do. First of all, as I said, it's a synthesizer. So you can create synth patches and store them and save them and modify them. Now, the one huge difference is the fact that with the Digitakt, every one of those 16 tracks is mono. Now, it's stereo, but it's monophonic. Only plays one note at a time. With this, you could play chords. So if you're a composer, if you are used to writing music on a piano and you're interested in chords and chord progressions and changes, this is your guy. You can't do that with the Digitakt. But I understand the Digitakt, a lot of people use them for different things, textural things, and they will sample chords into them so that they can include a chord in their sequence or in their song. So that's a really huge distinction, is you can play chords and multiple notes on any track with this. When this thing came out, it didn't do almost any of these things that I just talked to you about. It came out and it was pretty limited. You could do sequencing, and you could use it as a drum machine, and you could use it as a synthesizer. But all of a sudden, they made it open source. So that means that anybody out there could get involved as a developer and come up with an idea for this and integrate it into the box. So now they have this community firmware, and every few months they come up with the update, and you put it in, and it does all sorts of stuff that it never used to do before. It just gets better and better and better, and they don't charge you anything for that. Now, as you know, with the Digitakt, now they've come up with the Digitakt II, which is stereo and has way more memory, but this thing's always been stereo. I kind of like the idea that this company just makes one piece of gear, and they just keep improving it for no money. So now, the reverb that used to be in it was pretty lame before, and now it's the mutable reverb, really powerful. Now it does granular effects. Now it does wavetables. All of a sudden, there's all of these new features, capabilities, possibilities, and that just blows me away. So a lot of the things that I was talking about that they have in common, a lot of people didn't think the Deluge did those things, and that's because it didn't used to. It's always getting better. The sequences that you create on a Deluge can be any length. They can be as long as you want. Same as the amount of tracks that you have. You can have as many tracks as you want, not just 16. You could have 60. And the tracks could all be different lengths. Another really cool thing about this sequencer is you can have it so some of the sequences are running forward and some of them are running backward. Some of them are running backward and then forward. So it's very powerful for that, the playback direction. Another really amazing thing, CV and gate outputs. So you can use this to control your modular gear or other pieces of gear. Unfortunately, the Elektron Digitakt doesn't have that. It has MIDI and audio out and USB, and that's it. The Deluge also has a built-in microphone. Believe it or not, it can be pretty cool. Another thing, look, it's not plugged in. It's running on batteries. Depending on what you're doing, you might get 4, 5, 6 hours just on a full charge of a battery. So throw it in a backpack, take it on an airplane, go hiking, go mountain biking, take your unit with you and create music anywhere. Now that's something that's very rare and very cool. The other thing it does, multi-sampling. So not only can you record a sample into it or put a sample into it, but if you have an instrument like a piano that changes a lot, instead of having a piano sample on the Digitakt, on the Deluge you could have a multi-sample. So you could sample that piano every few notes, and it would sound really consistent, like a real acoustic instrument. Now, once again, if you're making electronic music on the Digitakt, you're probably not that interested in having an authentic piano sound, but it is something to keep in mind. Another thing, full MPE support. So you've got constant free improvements in this piece of gear. Every few months, they add new features, new ways of interacting with it, and also new ways of displaying something. Now check this out. I don't know if you can see that, but all of these white parameters, these are all parameters that can be automated. So you push one, and now you can draw in automation. Look how easy that is to see. When you do automation on the Digitakt II, you don't really get any feedback. You can't see it. You can't see it while it plays back. Here, it's a really powerful thing. It also has new randomizing options. You can randomize all sorts of parameters in the machine. Another thing, brand new. All of these things, including trigger locks, where you can have a trigger and a certain sound act in a certain way. You can do them on both machines now. All of a sudden, they become way more competitive. Now, granted, the Deluge or the Deluge is more money, but I think it offers a lot more. So I just wanted to touch on some of that stuff. Let's take a look. I'm going to show you some of these features that are brand new, part of the open source stuff, and stuff that is not capable on the Elektron Digitakt or Digitakt II, and just see what you think. Here's a little pattern I put together. Going to make it 4 times as long. All of these are things that can be automated. So, first of all, I'm going to try the filter. I'm going to bring that filter down. So you can see the automation. You can watch it happen. As I go through here, it shows you everything else that can be modified and automated. So for instance, reverb amount. Let's put some reverb right there. And we're hearing the filter being automated as well underneath that. A little bit of decimation. And you can hear all those different automated things stacked one on top of another. And you have displays for all of them. Oscillator number 2, pitch. You can hear one of the oscillators being modified there. I'm changing some release rates here in the envelope. Some strings, multi-samples of some strings. We can go into a new mode. We have a chord library and a chord memory. These are all different chords related to a specific pitch. The color tells you what note. And in the display, you can see what the inversion is. Very new and powerful. So here are some drum samples. Each of these is a different velocity sensitivity, so you can do finger drumming. And you can program using this. Another thing, we can go the opposite so that here we have one sound on each pad, so 63 sounds. You get the idea. Multi-sampled, polyphonic. I gotta say, this is a really cool box. You can do really cool things with it, and a lot of people are doing really great things with it. But you know, one of the places that I think this really shines is when you get it from the factory. It has so many cool sounds in it, and it's so easy to put your own sounds into it. I think where Synthstrom really failed when the Deluge came out is the sounds that were in it were kind of okay, but not that unusual in terms of like long sound design things and textures and like musical events and stuff. Whereas with the Digitakt, especially the Digitakt II, you've got more memories. You can have longer things, longer samples. They can all be stereo. And I think the idea is when you get it, you really get a sense quickly of how many cool things, different types of sounds, and even the percussion sounds they put in this thing are really weird and edgy and dirty and funky and twisted and diverse. So I think that's really where they took the lead there. Plus the fact that, if you know this form function, if you have a Syntakt or if you have a Digitone, you're going to be able to go seamlessly from one device to the other. And a lot of people, once you're into their ecosystem, it's really easy to pick up another device or to add it on, use two of them together. And I understand that this workflow is really cool and people get addicted to it. For me, because it's new to me, man, I've spent a lot of time at this, and there's still stuff I'm really having a hard time finding or remembering how to do, because it's very, very different. They're both awesome pieces of gear. If you had both of them in front of you, one of them would draw you in just because of where your mind is and what kind of workflow you like. So I think that's really the thing, is like they each offer something different. I'm lucky I've got them both, and I can use them together. But I just really wanted to point out that the Deluge has been getting better and more like the Elektron gear, and specifically like the Digitakt II. Thanks a lot. Hope you got something out of that. See you next time.